Brought to you by Raising the Vibe, a nonprofit organization supporting the growth of conscious communities.
Welcome to Raising the Vibe. We are a nonprofit organization with the mission to be a connection hub for expanding consciousness. And Raising the Vibe has been around for about 2.5 years. We offer monthly Zoom speakers for free in the areas of self-actualization or getting to know yourself, holistic healing, which we say heal yourself, and then we have conscious community practices, which is really give of yourself. So once you kind of, awaken more spiritually, learn about yourself, then we can come together to create a better world, I hope. So that's Raising the Vibe's mission. The website is raisingthevibe.org if you are new to us. So I encourage you to check it out. We have many videos over the last couple of years of speakers from talking about the Enneagram, to Darshana Patel talking about her ionation, to Peter Lombardi and his thrivable communities, to working with crystals. I mean, many, many topics. I encourage you to check it out. They're on the website. We also are on Facebook with a page and a group, Raising the Vibe. I think it's Raising the Vibe Atlanta. Again, I'm Rebecca Paris, and I'm the founder and executive director of Raising the Vibe. And I'm thrilled you're here tonight, and I'm so happy to have our panelists with us, all in some sort of holistic healing profession. So what we're going to do is have each of the panelists introduce themselves, talk about themselves a little bit and their work, and I'll call on them. And then we're going to have some questions where we can all interact as a group, as panelists, and then there'll be an opportunity for the participants watching tonight to ask questions, and if you missed it, either put it in the chat or you can ask it on screen. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and get started, and I'd like to ask Robert Novak, who's also acting as our webinar director tonight, so he's got a couple jobs, to introduce himself and his work. So Robert.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Rebecca. Very happy to be here with all these wonderful people, and thank you for attending, everyone. So when we look at my work, it does vary. If we look at one-on-one sessions, one thing I could do is an intuitive reading. The second thing relates to, if you want to say, resolving or transforming some sort of symptomatic problem in your life, which could be physical, could be health related, mental, emotional, relationship, whatever else. But it really, is all about bringing forward greater awareness. Also, one time someone asked me what are the 4 main things I offer, and I would have to say insights, so intuitive insights. Second thing is improvements. Third, empowerment, because I want people to be empowered, so they don't have to constantly come back to me. They can really move forward and strive in life. And the other is divine gifts. And the reason that happens is because in every session, I consider myself in presence, where all things are in presence. So anything could happen, which is different than being, in present or in the now that has a time element. Time, presence is timeless. So that's why many magical things can happen and divine things can happen and openings can happen during those capabilities in presence. The other thing, many times I refer to my work as unraveling consciousness. And what that means is that consciousness has an energetic aspect to it. And because we're living and, everything is happening, we can, our conscious can attach to things and accumulate, which then, unfortunately, sometimes it creates the limitations for us. So we have to go and unravel that so then we can be free again. So that, is definitely what we're looking at, we do on a one basis. And then periodically I have live workshops and also, recorded ones along the lines of increasing consciousness and transformation. Plus I've written a few books, a couple meditations, even have an oracle deck. So it's all really a lot of fun. And, but no matter what, work with me. In the end, you're going to become more aware and happier for sure. All right. Thank you.
Sorry, I had to unmute. We got the duo of Bill Little and Ann, and love to have you guys talk and also say where you live. So that's kind of fun as well. So go ahead, Bill and Ann.
So I'm Ann.
And I'm Bill.
And we live in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And yep, we are a rather unique, some say divine couple who happened to connect on April Fool's Day, 2012. So there was no missing the beauty and the magic when we came together. And there's a couple of things that we share with the world. One is interestingly technologies. These technologies are designed to help maybe dissipate, reduce, and in some cases eliminate some of the emotional and mental patterns without per se necessarily needing to do anything other than a willingness to let go. So we work with vibration and sound and technology. And this is what started us together in 2012. And what's interesting is there's been a number of them that continue to show up in our reality, all designed ideally to help and strengthen our connection to who we really are through the energy and vibration of what we say is love.
And since we came together, there's been a lot of changes, expansions, and some of the expansions is into areas where we often don't think spirituality and love belongs, and that's in business. Changing the flow or flow economics relating to business. We've just come through a time in this world that we've all participated in, that we know the economics doesn't work. And we're now, Anne is leading the charge on some, creating some workshops, et cetera, relating to challenge each of us in our beliefs on what finances and flow is. So modeling after Robert. So I suppose if you said, what would we do? First off, we don't know what we're doing. We'll just be really freaking clear on this one. But we'll bring gifts forward. We both have our own communication gifts. Some call it channeling. Some others, I don't know what it called. I don't know what it is. I just open up. So that's a piece. We also have very leveraged biofeedback systems. We run a micro computer lab where we have over 80 computers running on people all over the world, helping them let go of things. And then we also work with crazy scalar energy technologies. And we tend to keep a very low profile on that due to the nature of how powerful they are. So anything more? That's who we are.
That's who we are.
Thanks for
Thanks
putting
for
us
having
on,
us.
letting some Canadians in, eh?
Love it. So good to see you both, and I'm glad you joined us tonight. All right, Kate Becker.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kate. I am Rebecca's daughter. So a little bit of what I do is I do a little bit of everything. So I'm a yoga teacher right now is my main focus. But I also am certified in hypnosis and magnified healing, which is a healing modality that incorporates a lot of spiritual invocation, or I don't know, whatever you call it, of Kuan Yin, who is a spiritual goddess from China. She, stays with me in my home. I have a little altar of her. I do Reiki, and what else? I do a lot of like breath. So right now, my yoga practice, I incorporate a lot of energy work because we're energetic bodies. So a lot of it is just being able to like become in touch with your energy as you are kind of flowing with your breath at the same time. And a lot of meditative strategies also incorporated with the I guess I call it hypnosis meditative strategies, which really facilitate, the practitioner to be able, or the client to be able to really drop in and get into a relaxed state. So I work with like the mind, body, and spirit all at once because they're all connected. So I find that it's all really important just to be able to acknowledge all of that. So in my Reiki energy work sessions, I do a lot of breath work, a little bit of physical touch on the body, and also using the hypnosis meditative strategies to help them get into that state. Also while working on their body's energy and incorporating the light into the parts of the body that need it the most. So I do a little mix of everything, because I think it's all important to, when you're working on one aspect of the body or the mind, it's all kind of coming together. So I like to, do all of that at once and just kind of flow with it and channel it. And yeah, so that's what I do.
Great. Thank you, Kate. And you are in Black Mountain, North Carolina.
Yes.
Robert and I are in Old Fort, North Carolina. So we're kind of coming from all over the place. All right, Ursula.
Hello, everybody. So happy to be here with some amazing colleagues. We're all healers and we all come from a place of love and compassion. I do a few modalities in my healing practice. My primary one is subconscious work. 10% of our mind is just the conscious version, and 90% of our actions and reactions come from the subconscious. So when we can't stop a bad habit or some thought pattern, it's because that's coming from our subconscious. And that usually is programmed from a time and a place within our history or our ancestries. A lot of the things that run through our mind are inherited through nurturing and nature. And like our little willpower has no chance against the subconscious. So I go into the subconscious and I can heal out traumas and addictions and things that have happened to us in this lifetime. I can heal out the legacy burdens that we've received from our father's side and our mother's side of the family. And sometimes we even go into past lives and heal out carried stories, stories that were carried forward. That's primarily what I enjoy doing. I also have led a meditation since 2008, and we do a weekly meditation where we bless the planet with loving kindness. And the more we do that, the more we become receivers of that loving kindness in order to give it. The format that comes from is pranic healing. I am a pranic healing teacher. My next class is September 17th and 18th. So you can learn how to heal yourself. You can learn about the 11 chakra systems. Master Chokkak Sui did extensive research and made it very simple and safe. Not all energy healing is safe. We focus primarily on cleansing, because if we have a bunch of junk and we put more energy in, well, that's not going to go so well. So we do a lot of cleansing of the chakras and understand energy. Anybody who is interested in healing or who is a natural healer really should be taking this class, because it sets up the framework and the foundation of energy, and it makes it really safe. So even if you do massage or you're a nurse or something like that, it's good to have this kind of background and foundation so you don't pick up other people's stuff. I love doing my work. It's my life's passion. I love teaching. I give courses. I'm a minister with Centers for Spiritual Living. You can check out my YouTube. If you want to talk to me, reach out on Facebook. Everything's under my first and last name, so I'm easy to find. And I'm very happy to be here as a part of Raising the Vibe. Thank you, Rebecca, for doing this tireless work that you do behind the scenes to bring up a consciousness platform of healthy, good people. Appreciate you and Robert. Thank you.
Thank you, Ursula. All right, Eli.
Hi, I'm Eli English. Thank you for allowing me to participate. I am a naturopathic doctor located in Marietta, specifically the Marietta Square. I have been practicing for 20 years, and I specialize in quantum biofeedback and homeopathy. I also use herbs and vitamins and minerals to help people find their balance. If you heal the body, if you balance the body, you can heal yourself. And I do in-person and remote sessions. And you can find me on Facebook and online with Eli English, ND.
Thank you, Eli. Gail, you're up.
Hi, everyone. So wonderful to be here amongst some fabulous heart-centered people. And Rebecca, thank you so much for putting this on. So I'm Gail Turner Cooper, and I own a company called Align Health Coaching. I have also a mixed bag of modalities that I offer. The first is I'm a functional medicine health coach. So what does that really mean? It means we're going to get to the root cause of what's creating someone's dis-ease. And that could be through nutrition, it could be through stress management techniques, as well as lifestyle changes. I am also a Reiki master, and I engage in not only being a practitioner of Reiki healing energy, amongst a lot of other healing energy that comes through. It's not just Reiki energy, but I also teach others and to not only open up their gifts, but develop a practice as well, and a thriving one at that. And the third thing I do is I'm an intuition development coach. So I really help people open up to their gifts and develop them in a way that's very safe, that is very healing for them, and can help balance that mind, body, soul connection. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Gail. All right, Rebecca Winnica. Becca, sorry, to get so we don't get confused with Rebecca.
Yeah,
Go
right.
ahead, Becca.
Hey, everybody. It's great to be here. Thank you, Rebecca, for doing this, and such a sweet space already, and just an honor. I have dove deep into the world of energy, balancing the body. We've heard that word several times. Through specialized kinesiology is the specific modality that I utilize, and that is accessing the distress frequencies in the body through muscle testing as the biofeedback mechanism. And so that information is leading us in sessions one-on-one, in person, or over Zoom, where the distress is, and using acupressure touch and intention, some affirmation work to reroute the energy flow so that it can get back into a space with connection and balance in the body to heal itself and course correct body, soul, spirit, mind, mental, heart energies in order for that magic to show up. And I really work across the board with anything. I've not had a particular quote niche of things. It seems to be very individualized, and that's what I love about it. Actually am not a girl who loves the same thing every day, and so it's kind of a beautiful fit for me because I never know what's going to happen, but that's what I love about it. The divinity and humanity show up in both of us, and the mechanism of self-healing activates in me and in our connection. And really a lot of shifts happen in consciousness. And Robert spoke to like untangling and detangling consciousness, and I do that as well across generational patterns, personal patterns, lives and lifetimes, and just in a holistic way, bringing the multidimensional self back under one hood in order for that one hood to begin to function more as you're created to function. Which is in peace, and your nervous system to find its traction in its original design for those higher states of being, and being able to hold those longer. So I work with children too. My oldest client has been 89, and she got up off the table without pain. And I just was inspired by her courage to try something new at 89. And so the modality itself just fits any age. And I love what I get to do with people as a co-facilitator with them. So thanks for doing this and bringing us all together. So cool.
You are quite welcome, Becca. Thank you. All right. Next is Rodrigo Bravo. Please introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. My name is Rod Bravo. I'm so excited to be speaking to everyone about this. This is one of the first few times I've ever really gotten to speak about any of this kind of stuff. And that's because as of yesterday, I just moved to Tucson, Arizona, where I am beginning my medical studies at the College of Medicine here at the U of A. One reason why I have been quiet for the last 20 years was because I work and I've worked in biomedicine, biotechnology, cancer research, really in a world where my personal medical history and the way I have resolved many of my own illnesses have never been able to be supported or helped by anyone who's an MD since I was 7 years old. It's quite a tale, but long story short of it is that I'm now in the system, kind of like a Trojan horse kind of a thing. And I get to become an MD who has a very wide and very personally interacted set of experiences about how there's just some bodies, some people who they cannot really be helped quickly, financially well enough, in means that like a pill or therapy can what our system is set up for, Western medicine. That means my area of expertise really is with people who have chronic, complex illnesses, maybe spaces where there may be little time left for them to be alive, or there's not much that can be done for them. I've been in that spot many times, I'm sad to say, but I've also overcome many of those things. Very much maybe aligned towards empaths or HSP, highly sensitive peoples. My research and my work has really just found that everyone on Earth can benefit from working with sort of like the energetic basis of diseases, as people don't really, there's not really any human on Earth who doesn't have some sort of emotional tangle, some part of their life. Otherwise, I don't think we'd be here. So that is where I really teach people how to comb through the emotional underpinnings behind diseases, particularly ones that are very complex, rooted in maybe long periods of time, or just does not go away, or it recurs throughout your lifetime. Now, as I mentioned, I'm becoming a doctor, traditional MD, but very, very, very non-traditional. I'm aiming to really work as a researcher in this field, help to expand it and magnify it, and making like normalizing, and like really, really integrating like multiple modalities in medicine, bringing complementary medicine to healthcare, and eventually to really have my own clinic or practice where I can really institutionalize and normalize things like Reiki, past and future life regressions, and the modalities that the only things that were able to help me, because I know there's many people out there who they don't have a platform to explore that, but it's what I've lived by. I am the evidence. And we can always talk about that later, but that's a little bit about me. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much, Rod. All right. And again, the format is we're just going to have the panelists interacting, and at the end, the participants can write in the chat, or we're going to say the last 30 minutes. It should go from 7 to 8:30. The last 30 minutes will be for any of the participants to ask questions. So right now, I'm just going to engage the panelists. And we'll just see if this works, but you guys can just unmute yourself if you want to answer. I'm just going to pose a question to the panelists, and then please just unmute and just answer if you would like to contribute. So the first question is to the panelists. Now that you've heard the modalities of these other professionals here on the webinar, what modalities or what commonalities do you really see that are just flowing throughout everybody's work, or most everybody's work? And what can we say about holistic healing, about what everybody does that's common? So if anybody wants to jump in with that. I see Gail has unmuted. Yep.
Everyone on here is the most heart-centered, compassionate, love-driven person. And I think that is what the common thread that runs through us all, is that's how I know I face my clients. I know that's how everyone on here faces theirs as well.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I'd like to add that, I'm very well known for referring people, right? Especially in session, it just comes up, oh, you need to go see this person to help you with this. So I love the fact that I get to meet all the panelists because I'm sure it will come up in sessions like, hey, this technology or this person has more talent at that. So I think it's where it's really important as well. It's like, what guidance are you given for that person to work with someone else, which is, it just shows you abundance as far as I'm concerned. You don't have to worry about it. I'm referring someone else. It's fine. I hope you get better. That's the main thing.
I'm also noticing a theme where we're not doing the healing, that we're resourcing. And out of what Gail said, our open-heartedness, right? So the qualities are of consciousness, or the divine energies, whatever you want to call them, is love, intelligence, and power. So each of us have those skills and different trainings, but we're basically using these divine qualities out of compassion to do the healing. It's all, different roads to the same mountaintop, basically. And that we've received healings, just like Bravo was saying, we've benefited. So Bodhisattva style, we turn around and reach our hand out, say, come on, I found a way, let's go.
Yeah, I'll say something similar to what Ursula was saying. I think we all have the same kind of goal in mind. We're just going about it in all these different ways, all different branches. And I'm sure many of us, or most of us on here, have had some kind of personal experience with disalignment or dis-ease in like the body, mind, soul, whatever it might be. And have tried the surface level of popping a pill, talking about it in therapy, and have all maybe realized that that's not quite doing the trick. And so we've all wanted to explore what is the deeper level of this, like what is the root cause, and like how can we get to that by analyzing the totality of what makes us a human being. We are consciousness, we are the body, and we are creating the body's well-being based on our consciousness. So a lot of us are, and then that's where energy comes into play. So we're all working with the consciousness, and we're all working with the body at the same time, and the energy that really gets to the root of everything. Because popping a pill isn't always going to solve your problem. It could help, it could numb the effects, but we all are just like, let's get to the bottom of this, and let's come out of this on top as fully light beings and overcome all the programmings. And I think it's so beautiful that, to be a healer, most of the time we've all struggled ourselves, or we've seen people struggling themselves. So it's with that struggle that creates the lotus, coming out from the mud. And I think it's a really beautiful thing.
Thank you, Kate. Anybody else want to jump in?
I can offer one more. I was gonna say one thing that I think I felt in my life, as I even alluded to, is just the amount of personal work and experiencing that people most often have to go through to kind of speak or just naturally kind of like oscillate at the level that I think all of our panelists really live at and work at it. People aren't, if you're born like that, you're like sacred and a deity. It takes a lot of work for a regular human to unlearn and self-love and accept alternative and make it normal, and then find more like you and be willing to speak up about it. And you're reaching into, or like the aim is to try to elevate and teach others who are still muddling through the world, society, what we've all ironically created for ourselves. It's in many ways, I like to see it as a really deep form of compassion. And it's like one of the deepest callings people can have, because we're kind of nothing without our own, right? Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, Bill.
I took a course a few years ago, and the instructors said all healing starts at spirit. And I kind of at the time went, what the hell? Have these guys lost their minds? What about getting an aspirin, being ridiculous? And then really what I've watched in this group is, it appears to me through my lens of translation of this reality, is that we're all endeavoring to assist people at higher vibrational level effects, not necessarily trying to get them there, but to assist them when they're in those levels. And if we can get them to let go of the human beliefs of sickness and the human beliefs of our patterns and our stuckedness in the energy fields, that the natural innate abilities of souls to flow energy into our bodies and to create balance and well-being and allow us to function and live in our original blueprints just seem to blossom. And so I guess that's what I was watching, is that even like in the Course of Miracles, they say there's only one answer, but there's lots of roads to that. And that's the beauty of this, is we all would provide different things to people. And as long as in my world and what I see here is we're love centered, and we're endeavoring to get people to understand that there's a higher level condition bringing about the disease in the human form, and hence energy, hence love. And so it's a great part of being part of this panel, is watching this beautiful thing unfold with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of us.
Nice. So what I've heard is, one, it starts with love. And then when you're with a client, you're just being together with the higher power and channeling in that. And you're helping the client turn on their self-healing abilities to get to the root cause and to deprogram the lower frequencies or the dis-ease, to remember who they really are as a divine being. And I think that kind of sums up a lot of what you said. And it is about consciousness, and it's not, healing is not even really what it is. It's really just remembering and reconnecting more firmly with who you really are. And together, I think when two or more are gathered, in terms of more religious programming with Jesus, it's you can come together and know yourself to be divine. And it's just a beautiful thing to heal in that way. So many of you are just doing awesome work, and really appreciate it. Any other last comments on that before we go to the next question?
I just want to piggyback off of what you said. So much about healing is that it's addictive, because we're constantly seeking to get better. It's in our human nature to constantly want to improve. And the same goes to healing. You want to, like, oh, I have this to work on, I have this to work on, this chakra's out of balance, And so that's great and all. And I think it's beautiful to want to keep striving to become the best self. But what I really find important is saying, no, remember, you already are that. You already are that light. You already are healed. And it's just reconnecting to that. And that was beautifully said, because the more you're going to continue to want something, what they teach you in hypnosis is, the more you're seeking something, the more you're reiterating that you're in lack of. So be with that energy already and come back to it, and you're all set. So yeah, that was a good point.
Perfect. And Ursula saying, healing is becoming whole again and remembering who you truly are. And that's really what we're all about. And we're just helping others remember who they are, and they help us remember who we are, because it's a two-way street here. Perfect. All right. The next question is, if you can provide an actual case history, obviously no names, of someone you have worked with that has had profound recovery or response or an outcome. So I'm just going to open that up for anybody who wants to jump in there.
Well, I'll start with, of course, there's been a number of times, but also there's, some attendees here right now with us that I haven't been able to handle the physical problems, right? So I'm not gonna say I know my limitations, but I just show up, right? I think that's what we all do. And what can we provide to help, along the way in the awareness of things? So even though I'm going to share a couple of profound things, it doesn't mean that it's always happening in that way, right? There's a total physical healing with everything. But one of the things is depression. Definitely a number of people help with depression. And a lot of times people think that's a mental and emotional thing, but it's really not. It's really depleted energy. So when you actually start working with depression, you want to, check their energy level in their core. And a lot of times it's extremely low. Now, the question is, how did it get there? And once you can, through a few sessions to re-engineer, if you want to say, or get that core energy up, then they can start dealing with different mental, emotional things and don't feel like the world's caving in on them, right? Because they're stronger internally. And what I found then is these cases of depression is always started on the spiritual basis, where there's either depleting of energy through others' interaction with other people's energy or spirit, or other spirit that we don't see, or even other people's minds, okay? Because other people's minds can be projected within one's field and can really, screw one up, if you want to say. So depression to me is you start with, the energy aspect first, and then, the person's able to become more aware and deal with things. And the other thing I'd like to share is one time a mother, called me through a referral of a psychic, and the mother was at the hospital with her daughter, who was 15 at the time. So as the mother, I'm talking to the mother on the phone, I'm hearing the daughter, thrashing, in extreme pain, on the bed. So I start working, just, with on the phone with the mother. And what we did there at that time was resolve a lot of ancestral karma. So as soon as we started resolving a lot of the ancestor karma, then she got peaceful. And then the next 2 days did 30-minute sessions the same way with, the daughter. And this on a Tuesday. She had a doctor's appointment on Friday. And the doctor, astonishingly said, you're like, you have never been sick before, right? And she was supposed to be in the hospital for a couple of weeks. So by removing certain things that, aren't, if you want to say, logical or trained on a spiritual, basis, or even, in the ancestral DNA line of things, allows the body to start healing itself. And everyone knows this that's here in this panel, but it's just, a couple of great examples that I wish to share.
Thank you.
I can give one.
Yeah, is it
It's
about
okay.
you?
Yeah, so full disclosure, very okay with this. I am the patient in many of my own cases. I'd like to give the first major one that made me realize there's something very alternative about my body. And it's become really easy to heal really intense things. But the first one, it started off as something that I guess is just a severe cold. I was, I think, 18 or 19. I was in college. It was like end of late October, early November. I just had a really, 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 really bad kind of a flu kind of a thing. I had a flu shot. I took like a flu pack or a Z pack, and it went away within months. It was very strange. It just came completely unfazed by any precautions I'd had. And I was like, oh, college student, probably got sick, first year, whatever. Second year of college, it came again at the exact same time, and it hit even worse. Knocked me out. My grades would take a hit every time that time of year came. By my third year of college, it was so bad I lost 40 pounds and I had to leave school for a semester. And I was locked in quarantine because officials at Harvard University Health Services thought I actually had Ebola. That's how bizarre and strange this really scary seeming cold / flu seemed to come. Now there were like cyclical fevers, like a fever would come on and it would like go up to 103, 104, and that was just on a Friday. and then it would go away. I'd wake up the next day totally fine. And I did that for 4 consecutive Fridays, and I really started to freak some people out. Um, Fifth year of college, it was the same thing. And I was starting to kind of lose my mind every time that time of year came around. I was like, I'm not crazy. Everybody around me, they can see me just going through this. And it it started to get like a creeping feeling almost when this time of year came around, because it felt like something was following me or haunting me. And that's when I really started to get into this space, because I was like, maybe there's something that's really just I need to resolve that doesn't make any sense. And that's when I learned about past life regressions. Upon the 6th year, I was 22, 23. I left, I had to take like a month off of work. And I had no voice for like a month and a half. It was terrible. I was fed up with it. And that's when I went to go do my first regression. And at the time, I thought this was a bunch of hooey. Even though I had been raised in various other modalities, energy work, Reiki, the concept of past lives just seemed a bit too far for me. Again, I'm like trained as a neuroscientist, so this was hard for me. But when you're desperate and you have no answers and nothing seems to help, um, your own desire to stay alive and get better, as Kate Becker said earlier, like it pushes you to be more open. I think when we're at our lowest is when we're most open to change, which says something about this little paradigm shift we're trying to bring about. Um, so when I did a regression, I was fascinated to see that it worked pretty easily for me. And immediately I just saw myself kind of like in a movie, kind of like watching this, I guess, memory go by, where I was dying. I was a 19-year-old young Native American male. I was in a barn. On the right side of me was a hay bale, and I'm burning up. What's curious is I could use my present day knowledge of science to actually go through that memory as it was sort of being replayed. And I realized that I was looking around my body for like an entrance wound for like a spear or a horn or something, but I didn't understand why I was dying. And overlooking me on my left was my grandmother, who I actually saw as my present day sister. Um, and I passed away, and I had died from like white man's virus, like measles or smallpox or something, brutal fever. And on the other side, I was very clearly explained that my sort of grief over having abandoned my elderly grandmother, who ended up having a miserable life, abused by this white guy who owned this plantation we lived on. Um, I had felt so much guilt. I had done that. I was 19. It is ironically the same exact year that I started happening in this lifetime, like things replay themselves like that. And and I kind of worked with like guides or whatever is in the in-between space between lives to finally let it go. I got to understand the emotional basis of a somatic disease that could not be like attenuated or prevented by any modern means we have right now. Possibly, it's funny because whenever my sister did Reiki on me, it would greatly, greatly alleviate my symptoms. No other person, just her, and it became more self-evident. Never happened to me again. Many multiple other diseases and problems, including kidney failure, internal scarring, internal bleeding, things that look like cancer, all have happened to me. And within one day of me doing regressions, they disappear completely from my body, and I'm completely healed. Not making this up at all. What really helped to seal it for me the first time I did this was I was freaked out. I didn't tell anyone what I had experienced. I was just grateful to not be sick that year or ever again come that time of year. But one thing about my sister Alex is that she had gone through really intense bouts of loss and grief for several years, ever since I was 19. Really, really powerful episodes of really sad things that were out of her control happened to her. And I hadn't told her what I had seen, but I had told her I found something that worked. I didn't even want to care how it worked. That was just my goal as a patient, as a sick person. It was to get better. And I was like, I know it's not medical for you. It's more life-based, situational. related to relationships or finance or just anything you can lose, which is like anything, right? But I was like, maybe this can help you. And she went to go do it. And it was just our crazy revelation as siblings, as a family, as souls, that she replayed that entire episode from the grandmother's perspective. And ever since then, come that time of year, I've never again been ill. And my sister has never again suffered really heavy bouts of loss. That's my first one. That was my major one. But that's my case history.
Wow, that's so powerful. And just, I mean, it's for the people who, don't believe in reincarnation. It's just like some of these things you just can't make up, and you can't describe any other way. And you had physical changes that really attest to, these other lives. So
Multiple times. Yeah. Yeah.
wow. Who else wants to go?
I was going to share. Oh,
Go ahead, Eli.
okay. I had a client come in one time, and he had been diagnosed with Parkinson's, and he was having really horrible tremors. And I tested him with the biofeedback, and I saw a question that came through of what's a good way to test for heavy metals. And my device is a really easy, non-invasive way of testing for all different types of metals. And this man had his silver fillings replaced in the 80s, but when the metals don't come out of your body, they stay in your body, they live in your brain and your nervous system, and his metals were really high. So I ran the session, and I worked on balancing his vagus nerve and his parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system, and I worked on a lot of other different things. And after the hour session, he walked out with no tremors at all. And it was just, it's a really awesome day. And it's always, so rewarding to see that type of response in people.
Awesome. Yeah, it's hard to measure our kind of work. So this is the favorite story I have, because there's a measurable involved. A lady came to me, she was diagnosed with cancer, and she didn't believe any of this hooey stuff. Like, I was a very weird person to her. She was just traditional Catholic mom, school teacher. And she said, I'm just got to try this. Then after, I think 2 or 3 weeks, the diagnosis came in, and they said, oh, I'm so sorry. We cannot treat your cancer. It's something very unusual. We've got this experiment, but it really only has a 3% chance. So she came to me and she said, I'm not dying from this cancer. Okay. I'm not dying. Like, I know 3% isn't very much, but I'm not dying. And I said, that's all I need. I thought, we got this. And she went ahead and did the treatment. But she really dove in, head first, just dove in, and we did subconscious work. We did pranic healing, and she healed out stuff that was going on with herself. She healed out she quit her job as a teacher, which was causing a lot of resentment for her. Cancer in the metaphysical realm is related to resentment. She healed out her relationship with her mom. She confronted some issues with her sisters, and she is alive and well, thriving many years later. The cancer's never come back. And, that's a measurable that I really enjoy.
Fantastic. Feels so good to have that kind of an effect, Oh.
Yeah, because you can't, like I said, you can't measure it. And I have people years later that, oh, you did one session with me. A man who I'm working with right now, he's like, you did one session with me years and years ago, and I've done all kinds of therapy and all kinds of healing modalities, and you're the only one that got in there deep enough, and I found you again. So I'm working with him again to take the next layer so he can go ahead and get married and, be fully invested in that relationship. That's rewarding too, because you love on these people, and then they go, and you never know really what effect we've had we're all very, very influential on each other, and sometimes we just don't realize it. I just love being as present as I can with people, because we never really know. And when I'm more present with people, I can also receive from them. Thank you.
Oh, sorry to cut you. Thank you. Anybody else want to jump in?
I'll go. It's hard to pick a favorite story. There's many fun, wonderful stories that bring me so much joy about people's healing. But I'll give you a recent one. So I belong to a group on Facebook, and I had seen this woman post that she really needed help. Like, you could just feel the vibrational tone in her post was of desperation. So I messaged and I said, I'm here, I'm an ear. If you just need someone to talk to and try and suss out what's going on, you don't have to make an appointment. I'm happy to talk to you on the phone and just listen. So I could tell, she called right away, and I could tell by her voice that she was in very low vibration and had been there for quite some time and had reached out to a number of different people looking for help. So just through a couple of different questions on the phone, I was able to detect that she was on some supplements that were not serving her and were exacerbating some hormone imbalances. So I made a few changes just on the phone. I don't even know this woman. I said, but I would love to meet with you. And if you want to continue further, that day she booked an appointment. I met her a few weeks later, did a proper intake, and the beauty that unfolded for this woman, we were able to get her hormones realigned. We were able to, so that was through the functional medicine side. Through the Reiki side, she had 2 negative attachments on her that I was able to see and remove that were keeping her vibrational tone low. And then from that, she really started to open up to her intuition gifts and ask that we continue even further and develop all of these natural intuition gifts that she has. So she really reached into all 3 buckets, and that just brings me so much joy to watch people not only heal themselves, but have that desire to grow and move forward and better themselves. Because when we better ourselves, we're bettering everyone else around us just from bringing our vibrations up.
Thank you, Gail. Who else would like to jump in?
I'll share a quick story. One of my favorites is I worked with a young man who had lost his leg in a motorcycle accident and phantom pain. And I was like, I don't know. I've never worked with anything like this. So it was kind of pushing me to an edge. And I tell people within 1 session to 4, you're going to tell a difference. You're going to tell whether or not this work fits you. And it was a layer cake, of course. But the main thing that his body really got us to was that when he was pinned and his leg was in that level of distress, several things happened. Part of him went to just go ahead and leave the planet. Like, I can't do this. Secondly, the pain hit such a fight flight in his system that all of that trauma just got locked in that limb. And even though it wasn't there anymore, when his body started to fall asleep at night, it went into the same place, because that's what started to happen to him consciously. Was when he hit that level of pain and distress, he started to not only leave his body, but he also physically and separate, but he also physically was dropping into that place of sleep. And so every night when he tried to fall asleep, his body would remind him that he was alive. And that pain was his like indicator that he was still on the planet and he had a choice. And when we got to that level, I still have chills all over my body. When we got to that level, his tears and mine just, it was mind blowing for both of us. And it was like, you do ultimately have a choice, and you need to know that you chose to be here. And so we detangled from that moment, a little quantum, reality, that we went back to that motorcycle accident and got all of him and brought him into the present, and all of his pain was gone. And he had never had any form of therapy other than medication and being on disability. And here's the linchpin, though. He had a choice to make about the secondary gain having to do with the pain, because the secondary gain of the pain was a paycheck of disability. But now he could get his whole life back if he wanted to and go back to work full time. So it was another level of consciousness by the fourth session, where he had to really sit with the reality of choice points and consciousness, and what kind of life do I really want. So it's very complicated in a beautiful way to hold this space for people in love and let them choose as sovereign beings what they want for their life. But that's one of the sweet moments. There's been so many.
Thank you, Becca. Anybody else? Okay. What I thought we'd do now is, I have some more questions, but I'd like to involve our attendees if they would like to ask a question. And you can do this by putting something in the chat or raising your hand. And you can do that with a little, you see the little at the bottom of the screen, you see a little raise hand button, and then we can actually bring you on. I think Robert will actually do it, bring you on screen to ask your question, or you can type it in the chat. So I'm going to open that up for the audience. We did have a question about heavy metals and in the chat from Randall. And I know Eli, I don't know if she answered that clearly, but she has a machine that actually is it a machine or is it a blood test, Eli, that tests for that?
It's a machine.
So if you're interested in that, you can connect with Eli. And then on the invitation for this event, I have everybody's website, so you can go back to that and connect with any of the panelists, if you're interested in getting services. So I'm going to just let, if any of the attendees want to ask a question now, I'm going to give it a few moments.
Yeah, and I would also, if anyone else on the panel have any words of advice how to best test for heavy metal exposure, please share. I know I don't. Okay, good. Now we had a hand raised before, Joanna Reed. I'm not sure if you still wish to ask a question or not. If you do, raise your hand again. Okay.
Okay. I'm going to, while you guys are thinking of any questions, I'm going to go back to some of the ones I've already prepared, and we'll continue on, and then we'll give you an opportunity again if you do think of something, something comes up in the next 20 minutes or so. How does your work integrate with more traditional Western medicine? Some of the, I chose holistic healing as the title, but some people call it alternative or integrative medicine or alternative. So if anybody wants to take a stab at that and how they worked with traditional medical doctors in conjunction with your work. Ursula.
I'll go again. I always go first because I'm an Aries. I can't help it. Dr. Springer is a functional medical practitioner and specializes in allergies. He did not want to be consumed by the hospitals that were eating up all of the, individual doctors. So he even said, okay, I'm just going to go for this a la carte, no more insurance. So he basically ducked out of the system. He is also a pranic healer. He's my student as a pranic healer, but we would work together on his clients. So he would have a patient come in and couldn't find anything physically going on. So he would say, okay, you need to talk to Ursula. I would work with them, the problem would go away. So we collaborated and worked together. You know, luckily I found him because he's just a wonderful man and a great, great, great healer himself. I put the picture of the Norman Rockwell where the doctors, you know, looking at the little girl and playing with the doll as the client. That's how he is. He comes from a beautiful place of caring. He's the traditional old school doctor, like in the villages, how they used to be in the back in the day. So it's rare to find a doctor like that, but he fully got it. And we were able to work with several of his patients so far. And that's a perfect example of the healing modalities that we are available to. My opinion is the doctors probably went in as healers. I'm sure that they're gifted similar to how we are, and they wanted to help people. Unfortunately, the medical world is dictated by pharmacy, and in their education, they're not even taught about menopause or, you know, regular things, because they're about selling medicine. They're not about curing. They're not even about preventing. So the medical industry has a long way to catch up with us, and really, truly, integrated medicine is the wave of the future.
I'll go. I have a number of doctors as clients, and each one of them that comes to me, I have the same conversation with them. Like, you know, you're trained in allopathic medicine, and I'm trained with a functional medicine background. And oh, by the way, I do all these other energy healing spaces as well. And each and every single one of them has said, yes, I know, that's why we're here. And to Ursula's point, each one of them has said, we're not trained in how nutrition really makes a big difference or how energy really makes a big difference. These are fundamental things that we all know innately to be very true modalities that help heal the body. And I'm a firm believer that if you give the body a wonderful environment to thrive in, the body will heal itself. And so with doctors as clients, that's one of the many reasons I can interact with the Western side of life.
Perfect. Thank you. Who else would like to chime in?
I'll share. Yeah, it's really interesting because I have clients that come to me and they say, well, I went to my medical doctor and you know, they just want to give me a pill. And, you know, I have to explain to them that medical doctors have a wonderful purpose and they're trained to diagnose and prescribe. So if you go to a medical doctor and you say, my elbow hurts, they're going to say you have arthritis, and then they're going to match a prescription give you a prescription that matches your symptoms. And most people don't realize that that's their role, and that, you know, you really have to go into the holistic realm if you want to get to the root cause. And I make a list anytime I ever hear of a medical doctor who is supportive of holistic medicine. I always add them to my list so I can refer people. I have there's a gynecologist in Marietta that when I used to go see her myself, we would compare smoothie recipes, and she's, you know, is completely open to having people deal with their hormone imbalances naturally. So she sends a lot of people to me. And also there's 2 oncologists at Kinesiology Hospital that are supportive of the protocol that I use. And, you know, they tell their patients, I really don't understand it, but it works. So, you know, just keep doing it. So, you know, awareness is spreading, and it's always great to see doctors who are open to it.
Thank you. Anybody?
I guess I can share one little bit.
Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Well, I guess it's funny. For a very long time, I tried to. It's funny. When I was a child, my dream was to become a physician always because I was so sick. um, and I think I've tried to run from it many times, and it's something that it's definitely meant for me. But I did not expect to be a medical student sharing this kind of stuff, because I meet so many faculty members, physicians, residents, attendings, other med students, and it's almost just like I bring something to them where they can't, once they get to know me, they're like, huh, maybe there really is something to this. Or a lot of like biomedical researchers, they're like, I've always wanted to believe that, well, they know that there's a lot. The whole point of being a researcher is that you understand there's a lot we don't know. And it's funny with a lot of them, they're like, that's fascinating. Like there's clearly a lot we don't fully recognize and understand about medicine. And it's very, I guess, funny having like an insider's like a Trojan horse perspective on someone who I like. I'm so unabashed about talking about this stuff with people, like med students, because they're getting their formation as what is the thinking of a physician. I think, I guess, for many of the ones who come into contact with me, I provide like a really clashing testament where at least there might always be like that fodder for, maybe there's something I'm not fully captivating in this curriculum, because I can see our curriculum, it misses like nutrition and basic wellness or mental health, or concepts that are very, like, I think becoming more normalized among like woo communities, or even like the Z generation, to a bit the millennials. But like it's very eye-opening to me just how the few little things I can say as a legitimate medical doctorate candidate that can just trip up people when they're just they're faced with something that's been evidenced multiple times that they cannot explain. I think it sometimes makes them cling to the other because it's safe and it's what they know. There's just a lot more complexity that I thought about getting through to the other side of enlightenment than I originally thought, because you have to go against what you're taught as a student so brutally by a lot of people with power,
Yes. Yeah, it seems like traditional medicine really just looks at the physical and looks at how things, work at on an individual level versus the whole, which the whole is the mind, body, spirit, emotional and mental bodies, the spirit, everything's together. And if you just look at one piece, you're missing the whole. It's like looking at the tree instead of seeing the big forest that's really there. And the forest is the issue. We have, so Joanna has a question or hand up, and then I was going to read a question from Heidi from the chat. But if Joanna, if you want to come on, let us know and we can promote you. Yeah, thanks, Robert. So we have you coming in.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thanks, Joanna.
Hey, hi.
Hi.
How lovely to connect with all of you folks here in Providence, Rhode Island. Thanks for taking my question. I love how this sort of opened. I think it was Rob who was sharing how there's self-actualization, there's healing yourself, and there's giving of yourself and giving your gifts. And I'm really curious if anyone here feels inspired to speak to your personal experience around that shift between healing yourself and giving of yourself, and any challenges that maybe you navigated within that beautiful, tender space, or really anything that comes to mind intuitively. I would love to learn from anyone who feels inspired to share.
Well, I think I was the one that said that, because that's what Raising the Vibe is doing. And I'm not a healer, but I would love to share. I came into this in a very traditional 3D life, had some awakening moments where I realized that life was not as 3D and linear as I knew it. And then that's why I have all this group of lovely people around me here on the panel, because I've seen all of them to help in some way unravel, because I was bound and determined to deprogram all of the conditioning that, was keeping me into this, what Oracle Girl calls the slave self. And then around about that time, I was very also interested in my self-actualization tools like human design and the gene keys. I'm now studying to be a gene keys reader or a guide. But with that, it also came along about service. And that's how Raising the Vibe got started. Is it became I just started listening. It's like, start a book club. Now that you're opening up with your gifts, you need to share and bring people together who have similar ideas. So we had the book club of Raising the Vibe, and then we turned it into a nonprofit 2.5 years ago to do just this, to open it up. But it went hand in hand, my own realization of who I was as a multidimensional being through this healing, and then the call to serve and to come together with other self-actualizing people, really to create the new earth. And I think that's what we're here to do. Things are falling apart as we see it, and now we're here to really build the infrastructure of the more collaborative, loving way that we all know that it should be. So that's one answer, and I'd love any of the panelists to jump into that as well. Great question, Joanna. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to weigh in on this with a little different perspective. Really, my background is technology, computers. Lots of people nowadays in computers. And so when I started expanding and shifting consciousness and deciding to make a focus of spirituality part of my life, I kind of thought I had to be like everybody else. It's like, hey, if I can't do something, so I started, doing the Reiki, et cetera, et cetera. But really the difference for me is that about 5 years ago, we traveled coast to coast in Canada, tens of thousands of kilometers, and I got burnt out. And I kind of did the, what am I going to do here? When you're spiritual and you're supposed to give your gifts, you're supposed to give all these gifts, and all of these wonderful things are supposed to flow through you. And I realized, well, that's not me. And a messaging that, we'll just use that language, a messaging came through and says, we didn't say become something you're not. We said expand on that which you are. And so, well, what the hell is that supposed to do? Sorry, pardon my language. Like, what am I supposed to do about that? I said, well, ever worked with biofeedback? Yeah. I've got one of those things, and I spent all my money on that, and great. And no. Use your talents and make it so that people can get access to this on a day-to-day basis and make a difference in their lives. It's like, what? You mean you're trying to tell me that I can give away, or I can use my skills as an IT person to help humanity? And the answer is yes. And what I've wondered and wandered and observed was so many people get so caught up, and I apologize to anyone that I offend, in the spiritual diatribing of how now that we're conscious, we need to do all of these things. You know what I would rather have? A conscious person selling me a coffee and touching my life with kindness and love. And so I guess my point is that you don't have to jump on the bandwagon to make a difference in this world. You just need to open your heart and love, and fucking let go of your stories that you can't do stuff and that you have to be something you're not. You came on this planet, you're at whatever age you are now. We're all at whatever age we are now. And I'm looking at, I think I'm the oldest on this call. Sorry, but that's all right. We all have talents. Why do we keep thinking that the grass is greener on the other side? It's not. The grass is greener when you open your heart, and when you love without condition, and when you surrender, and when you let go. And so for me, my talents is loving people. Well, how does that fit the IT field? Well, that's a different story. but really the encouragement is you don't have to be something that you're not innately natural at. Look in your life to the things you have passion, and then, pardon my language, get off your ass and do them. Because you know what? It's in the doing the things you love that you get to be this beautiful being that can love people and help people. And if that's healing people, awesome. You know what? If it's changing oil, awesome. If it's painting, awesome. Do it with love. And that's how we change the world, is grassroots love. And yes, all of us as beautiful people that have had the privilege to step into these other levels, that's awesome. That does not mean that everybody has to follow. Be you.
Well said.
I think that was beautifully said. And I'm going to go off of Joanna's question, or what was it? Can you repeat your question, Joanna? It was about serving your gifts and how. Can you just? Sorry, I kind of forgot.
Yeah, it's okay.
Mind.
By the way, I love the responses coming in. It's so just phenomenal. So much love. This is so beautiful. Yeah, the question was around any personal anecdotes. I'm curious to learn about just what it's like to be any one of you folks here. And it's about that shift with healing yourself and giving of yourself, and the relationship with healing and giving, right? It can be quite tender. Now I'm speaking from my own experience. And yeah, if anyone wants to
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought you said. I personally, my whole journey spiritually has been about finding peace. So I've been, I've dealt with extreme anxiety my whole life, and that manifested itself into my physical body, and I was coming down with multiple illnesses in college too, kind of like what Rod was saying. And through my journey, and I had been a gymnast my whole life as well, and I started meditating, and I was like, this yoga thing kind of like seems way up my alley, and I started doing it, and I was like, this is my purpose right now, like being able to feel that physical strength manifesting itself internally, and the balance physically manifesting itself internally, the calmness, the peace. And I was able to find just like a hint of peace through that, and that just opened me up to just all of it, like the meditation and everything. And when I started practicing Reiki, just seeing people like anyone I've ever practiced on has just been so at peace by the end, half asleep, just doesn't want to get up. And my mom today, actually, I worked on her, and it just makes me so happy because to me, when I'm serving other people that way and to see them, because I mean, I am an empath, so I am absorbing that energy, working on, being in my own bubble as well, but letting in what I allow to become my energy as well as that peace. And so I'm 100% healing myself as I'm giving a session, because we are all one. But there is a balance to be said about that, because you can, give a certain amount depending on what you're doing as well. But you also need to take that time to drop into yourself, and give yourself a break, because we can be giving to others a lot and we can be reciprocating that energy back. But you also need to understand what's my own and where can I just sit with, where I am right now. But I definitely feel that peaceful, healing, light energy every single time, and it definitely amplifies right back on me. So that's why I do it, because it's inspiring, and I personally just relate to that a lot, being an anxious person my whole life. And it makes me the happiest when I can empathize with someone going through the same experience and coming out on the other side. So yeah, thanks for that question. It was a good one.
Thank you, Joanna. I'm going to now read some of the questions from the Q&A. Heidi asked, is there a sequence for how healing is accomplished for a client? For example, does it start with energy work or nutrition first? Does anybody want to answer that?
Eli had an answer for the last question.
Yes. I just wanted to say, in response to what Bill said about the coffee, you know, I just want a conscious, what did you say? I want a conscious person to give me my coffee. You know, I just wanted to point out that it, you know, you can practice healing in any occupation, really. And one of my favorite things that I thought of when you mentioned the coffee was there's several restaurants that I've been to where they intentionally put loving kindness and compassion and peace into the food. You know, their food is such an instrumental part of our life. So, you know, there's so many ways. You don't have to be a Reiki healer or biofeedback person. There's so many other ways that you can contribute just by being yourself. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you, Eli. I think, Gail, did you want to answer the question about what do you do first? I think this is more kind of what you do as well.
Absolutely. So everyone is a very unique individual. And I think I would be amiss in saying that it's always following a particular protocol. If when I look at a new client, I'm going to assess them where they are and try and meet them where they are, and then understand what that first bit of movement would be for each individual person based upon their uniqueness. So it's not just one size fits all. Somebody may be benefiting from nutrition first, or maybe energy healing first, or simply just an ear to listen to what's going on with them. And again, allowing that environment to open up from a heart-centered place so they can begin healing themselves.
Usually, if wherever you start, one thing leads to the other aspect, because you're gonna continue amplifying that energy. It's gonna feel good, and you're gonna want to do all of it. But yeah, everybody's different for sure. We'll start at different places.
Robert, did you want to?
We would say just start.
Bill and I would just say, just start, pick one.
Yeah, I was just going to answer yes.
Yeah.
Right, because it does, everyone's unique, and there's so much, but you know, we'll figure it out with the uniqueness of what comes, nothing else intuitively, or how the body, you know, like Becca does, or many others. Even the body will give you the answers many ways. So just, you know, it's all very unique.
All right, I'm going to go. Eloise had a question. She said, first, a big thank you to all the panelists. My questions regards being grounded and the importance of being grounded as far as shifts in consciousness, also known as healing, is concerned. I had a client who didn't want to be in her body for a session, thinking it was helping her. She said it was too painful to be in her body. She seemed pretty set on that. She had also used Reiki for years. So the question is about the importance of being grounded, I guess, being in this world, being in your body versus up in the clouds and in your upper chakras. So anybody want to jump in on being grounded?
I'll say something. To me, when I think of being grounded, I think of just that element of safety and stability, because the word grounded is the ground, the earth, and what the earth offers us, you know, when we take our shoes off and have our bare feet on the ground is, you know, obviously a really positive energy, but just the ability to be like, I am stable and rooted and planted. And it's that root chakra of I'm safe, I have a right to exist. And so all, you know, your upper chakras can be out of line if the first one is not. The first, you know, right of when you come into this earth is this world a safe place. So if the body is feeling unsafe, you're going to automatically want to leave, because you know you don't have those first needs met. So I think it's so important, especially to just get outside, get barefoot, hug trees, and just feel like the safety and the security of I'm here. And certain affirmations can also be really good for that, meditations, but mostly, you know, my connection to the earth is something that's really, really helped me with that. Just getting outside as much as possible and really activating that root chakra. That's super important.
I'm
perfect
wondering
answer.
if I could chime in real quick.
Sure. Yeah, go
Just
ahead,
a
Rob.
little dichotomy I'm feeling. Like there's one thing to like definitely like know and value and appreciate what groundedness is, but then there was like what that patient was sort of announcing as was a need, as in like if the body was feeling pain to that level that the being could not even tolerate being in the body when healing was happening, may possibly be some sort of an indication that they weren't ready to let go of it, or at least not entirely, because healing happens in a stepwise manner. It's like a journey, ups and downs and plateaus all around. And maybe like there's also something about like patient autonomy, like if that's what the patient is, they're saying that's what they want to happen with their body, there's like some sort of like at least medical respect. Like MDs are taught about like, okay, well, if that's, or in theory, that's as far as they want to take it, then that's as far as they're willing to heal, right? And then maybe next time could possibly be like a part 2, where maybe we could try to be a little bit more here while the healing is happening, because maybe you're not feeling so, you want to run away. There's the groundedness that is good to have, but if you can't, sometimes the approximation may just be like what that patient was needing at that time.
Right. And the body's really good at taking care of you. Like, sometimes especially if you have traumatic memories or anything, your body is trying to protect you all the time. So if something's too much for you to handle, like your body's going to do whatever it can to shut it off, or, it's taking care of you. So maybe you're just not ready to be feeling that, or maybe it's too intense. And when you're ready to be processing that, your body will, you can go there for sure.
I just want to apologize for us squirming here. The one disadvantage of a backdrop like this is it's real and there's lots of mosquitoes right now.
It's getting a little late here.
Anybody else want to respond? Becca, were you searching to unmute, or did I just make that up now? Okay.
I think the only thing I would add is from a personal experience. Up until not long ago, I'd not felt safe in my body. And I think when people don't resonate with groundedness and they can't get there, don't beat yourself up over that. There really often is a subconscious pattern that is running, and sometimes that takes time for that subconscious pattern to release. And so when we go back to the initial statements of what we've all been sharing is to love yourself and be okay with that there is no perfect one answer, especially when those deep traumatic patterns are running out. Trust me, I've lived it. And so you have to allow that to occur more naturally. Don't force it. Find people who support it and help you begin to let go. But you'll know when you're ready to go and be fully present in this reality.
I just want to echo everything that you just said, that everything has a time and place to let go and to heal the different layers when you're ready, and then to love yourself. That was beautifully said.
Anything else? We are right at 8, a little after 8:30, and just going to open it up for any of the panelists to, or anybody attendees or panelists to have any closing things they'd like to say before I make a few closing announcements. So anybody want to jump in? Robert, were you?
Yeah, we have a hand raised, Ruth Ann, so I'm gonna allow you to talk, Ruth Ann. And then we just need you to unmute yourself. Can you unmute yourself?
And Ruth Ann, if you don't want to, yes, if you want to talk to the group, you can unmute, or you can type a question in the Q&A if you want to do that.
Okay.
Well, while we're waiting for Ruth Ann, if there's anybody else that wants to say anything or close up with anything. Any other questions from the attendees? Either in the Q&A, you can write it if you don't want to come on screen, or come on to the panelists. All right. Again, I'd like to be cognizant of your time. Thank you so much to all of my dear friends on the panel. I've got a lot of great things in the chat, just commending all of you for just opening your heart and doing what you naturally do to serve, which is usually what is bringing you joy as well. So that, I think, is the key here. Do what brings you the highest joy, and it usually is helpful for all of us. The next Raising the Vibe event is going to be on heart math, which is a subject that I've really always wanted to get to understand more. It's about how the heart is, has more neurons or whatever it is than the brain. And it's really so much about connecting the heart to the brain and really moving from a place of centeredness. And so Tricia Livermore, a Raising the Vibe business member, is going to speak to us on that on August 18th. So go to the raisingthevibe.org website under events, and you can go ahead and sign up for that event. And then on a personal note, Robert and I are going to take a cross-country trip, and we're leaving August 4th. And part of this trip is going to be to see the country, to open to our journey, but open ourselves to all of you through a website that we're creating right now called RebeccaandRobert.net, and it's in progress. But it's going to be vlogs and blogs shared about who we meet on the road, what experiences we're having, maybe some personal spiritual teachings, or Robert might read from one of his books a little quote, or who knows what's going to happen. But I'm learning to just allow, and we're planning that trip right now. So we'll be getting more information about that. But we're going to, if you want to subscribe to that, we'll keep you on there. But it's RebeccaandRobert.net. That's not fully activated yet, but that's just come in to share in our journey, and as examples of kind of living by following, as Kristen Gibbs, my friend, is on here, following the breadcrumbs. I always said I just followed the breadcrumbs, and this life kind of happened, because you have to let go of one life, and then you can actually go into the void, and then a whole new life shows up, and it's just following that intuition to really create what you want next in life. So that's what we're doing with this wonderful journey. But anybody else, any other closing things before we go? But thank you all. If not, perfect. Thank you all for attending this event. We have it recorded. We will be sharing this on the raisingthevibe.org website soon. And then hopefully the people that had signed up for this event but weren't able to attend will be giving the video link. But again, thank you everyone for joining us.